Marvel's Spider-Man, released as a PlayStation 4 exclusive in 2018, but later receiving a PlayStation 5 remaster and a Steam release for the PC. Prices for Spider-Man are all over the place, as the PlayStation 4 version is $19.99, and that can then be upgraded to the PlayStation 5 remaster for an additional $9.99. And on Steam, a copy of Spider-Man will run you $59.99. Marvel's Spider-Man is an open-world game taking place in Manhattan, where you play as Spider-Man. And this game is not an origin story. It works under the assumption that you are familiar with at least the broad strokes of the Spider-Man story. In fact, the game starts with Spider-Man helping the police apprehend the Kingpin, Wilson Fisk.
1 month! In 1 month you wish you had me back!
The Kingpin is heading to prison. End of an era. I feel like I should celebrate.
And the game treats this moment as if there was a whole game's worth of events leading up to this happening. So rather than being the beginning of a new run of Spider-Man comics, this is as if you've just randomly picked up an issue of a run of Spider-Man. But once the Kingpin is under arrest, the world opens up, and you can do your regular open world stuff, like fill in the map, which I'm not sure why Peter Parker would have to do that, being a New York native, or take pictures of various landmarks, which again, I'm not sure why he would do that as a native to the area. Or you could go around stopping crimes, because a lot of gangs are vying for power now that the Kingpin is out of the picture, and different groups committing different kinds of crime unlock as the story progresses. And the events and story of the game are not treated as the most important moments of Peter's life. Nothing that he deals with as Peter Parker or Spider-Man is character defining. It's all just him dealing with what may come. You go to work at a lab, where you work for Dr. Otto Octavius, who has not yet become Dr. Octopus. You go and visit Aunt May at a homeless shelter that she runs. You hang out with Mary Jane, and unfortunately sometimes have to do missions as Mary Jane. These grind the gameplay to a halt, but you pretty much have to endure them. And eventually, the next big story arc starts, where there's a group of terrorists called Demons who have a beef with Mayor Norman Osborn. And after that, you have a version of the Sinister Six to deal with, which is not as impressive as it first sounds, as Electro and the Vulture tag team you in a rather anticlimactic boss fight. And you get the same thing with the Rhino and Scorpion. And these characters, for being treated as such major threats, are really not that hard to take out in these boss fights. And if any one of them is a real threat to Spider-Man, shouldn't two of them together be a much greater threat to overcome? But no, instead they're knocked out fairly easily. In fact, both of these tag team boss fights are easier than side missions you do. There's a kind of side mission where you deal with criminal bases. There's several different flavors of these as the game progresses, but what you end up doing is just several waves of standard enemies. And if you don't have the rhythm of combat down, these can be very difficult. And it just strikes me as odd that dealing with a bunch of regular human beings is harder than dealing with two super-powered individuals. There is an ongoing theme in the game that Peter is just trying to do too much. He's very competent and on the ball when it comes to fighting crime, but when it comes time for him to take off the costume, his life's a train wreck. He's late to work every day. He couldn't hold down a relationship with Mary Jane. He can't pay his rent. He's actually evicted as a story beat in the game. And yeah, with great power comes great responsibility. But at what point is there a responsibility to yourself to just get your act together? It's also worth noting that if you are a fan of Spider-Man or Marvel comics in general, this game is just littered with Easter eggs for you to find. And a lot of them are minor and not even called attention to. Like when Dr. Octavius gets some new funding, and you'll notice around the lab there's a lot of AIM logos everywhere. But is Marvel Spider-Man worth your time and money? Well, with the price being so all over the place, I guess that depends. With the PlayStation 4 Game of the Year Edition only being $20, it's absolutely worth it. You have an amazing base game, and 3 DLCs to play through in that package. And if you have a PlayStation 5, it's only an extra $10 to upgrade that to the remastered version, which does make the graphics nice and shiny and new. If you're interested in playing on PC, that is possible, at a price tag of $60. And that is also a complete package that comes with the DLC. And while it is an amazing game, I don't know that it's worth $60 at this point. Personally, I would wait for one of the big Steam sales and pull the trigger when it gets down to about $40. And then you too can go around doing whatever a spider can.
Such a disappointment.
Please do subscribe, comment, like, and tell your friends.